everyone, and welcome to In the Studio. The program is brought to you by Davis Media Access and is broadcast on Davis Community Television, that's Comcast Channel 15, and AT&T UVerse Menu 99. Of course, we're also online at dctv.davismedia.org, so feel free to get online and check us out. Tonight, we're going to speak about what happens within Davis Media Access, and one particular important sector. You're used to thinking of Davis Media Access as a TV program or operations. But in fact, there is a very important wing of Davis Media Access, and it's the radio wing of Davis Media Access. And tonight we're going to speak about what this radio station does. The radio station is KDRT, and many of us here at Davis Media Access are known to call it KDRT. It is my pleasure to have here with me three prominent guests. I'll start with Jim Buchanan, and he's a part of the KDRT steering committee, and we'll learn later about all the things that he does. And we also have Craig Blomberg. He's the chair of the KDRT steering committee. And Doug Kelly, he's also a member of the steering committee. Thank you all, gentlemen, for coming here and for giving us a glimpse of what goes on at KDRT. Now, the first question I'm going to ask is, and I'll start with Jim, if you don't mind. What do you do? And how did you get involved in this radio station? I believe that this is an FM, a radio station. And were you part of the work group that began the radio station?
No, I moved to California from New Mexico in 2004. And saw a small article in the paper that they were looking for people to help with the startup of the radio station, which was going on the air later that year. And so
I believe September 24th?
September 24th.
Yes.
That's right, 2004.
2004, so it's 9 years.
So I was here for the opening of it, yes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I met Autumn, and I still remember it was at Hattie Weber, the library, now museum.
Yes.
And that's where the initial meeting was, and they had different easels and things set up saying, "What can you do?" And I'm thinking, well, I don't know, but I've always been fond of music and electronics, so I started out right away helping out with the broadcast end of it and the recording and things like that.
So you're, in essence, you're a radio engineer. And
Well, yeah, technically a radio engineer might have to have an FCC first or second class license, which, I don't have those. But, yeah, I'm quite comfortable with
operating the board.
And some, yes.
Yes.
And quite a bit beyond that,
yeah. Well, we'll come back to all the other things that you do, but let me go with Craig. Craig, thank you for being here. So what do you do? And were you here from the beginning as well?
No, I really wasn't here from the beginning. I began with the radio station when there was a threat to it being taken off the air.
My goodness.
Yeah, I was aware of the station, and I was an avid fan and listener, and contributed financially, but was not actually a member of the steering committee or really have any active participation until 2006, 2007?
2007 was
2007
when it started.
When a commercial radio station tried to relocate and actually succeeded in relocating a a tower to Davis,
I
which
see.
we can get into a little bit later
Yes,
on.
absolutely. That's very
But
interesting.
once there was the threat to the station going off the air, there, similar to Jim's exposure through the newspaper, the local newspaper, I learned of what was going on and got down here to help work with others to keep the station on the air.
Well, Craig, since you mentioned the threat, of course, that's, begging the question, what was a threat about? Was it the city?
Yeah, and I mean, that brings up kind of even, I think, a broader discussion that maybe we want to have, and that is that one of all of our passions is to protect community media.
Yes.
And to provide variety and underserved populations and so on. And over time, when I grew up in the Bay Area. There were some FM radio stations. It was, the late 60s, early 70s, and kind of a renaissance of a lot of artistic expression was taking place, including radio. And FM radio was kind of in its infancy at that time.
Yes,
and,
I remember.
So,
AM was
right.
the thing.
And so much of our youth, we really have indelible memories of that. And so I was a fan of KDVS when I moved to Davis, and when I graduated from college, that didn't seem quite as relevant. And so when KDRT came into existence as an adult, I was really excited about it. And then again, when it was threatened by, these forces of consolidation and so on, I really wanted to jump on the bandwagon. So.
Well, that's very interesting. Does it continue to be threatened?
Absolutely, absolutely.
And what is the reason? I'm pressing the question here. Is it money? I was going to say that.
I guess that's the simple answer.
The simple answer is money. Yeah. Well, that's good to know, because I'm sure that there is something we can do about money.
Absolutely.
But going to Doug Kelly, thank you for being here. So you're also a member of the steering committee, but what do you do for the radio station?
A great many things.
I'm not going to ask you what you do on weekends.
No. Well, on weekends, actually, I'm involved with the radio station. So I came here specifically to sell underwriting to the business community that would support the radio station. And since then, I have also become sort of a liaison to the music industry to try to get more music to KDRT that all of the programmers can access, as well as tie in with the community at large, the music community at large in Davis.
Yes.
A couple of years ago, we connected with a group called Music Only Makes Sense, and they produce the Davis Music Festivals. We just passed the third one in June.
Yes.
And we were a little late for the first one, but we were right there for the second one. And so we used the radio station and we partnered with this other group, Music Only Makes Sense, and they exist to provide funds to arts in the schools. And that's what the Davis Music Fest is about. It's a big fundraiser for arts in the schools programs within Davis. But anyways, we connected with the people who run that, and we worked together to promote the festival. We watched the festival double in size from the first to the second year, and then triple again in this past third year. And so it's really been great to work with these people and watch the whole thing just snowball and
flourish
and be on board with it and promote it to the community, be a part of that community, bring the two groups together, and it's just
very
been fantastic.
Rewarding.
Very rewarding.
And of course your role as an underwriter is very important to any radio station, and especially a community based non-profit radio station. But let's talk a little bit about, from what I hear, I find it difficult to visualize what the format of the station is. And it doesn't have to be a single rigid format, but perhaps I'll ask the chair of the steering committee to let me know. What is it music? Is it
No, it's
talk
kind of
shows?
Right. I mean, it's first of all, it's very rich with diversity, and we have tonight, for instance, there is a show called Rocket Radio. That's the host is, I guess Rocket is 11 or 12. Something.
He's grown up.
Oh, now he's
air.
13. See, I'm getting older.
Yeah,
but anyway, when he started, he was
8 or 9.
Yeah. And then we also have the Eclectic Dinosaur, and
Lee ain't getting any younger.
Lee ain't getting any younger. He's in his 70s, mid 70s, I think.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the fact that we have this diversity, it kind of makes it hard to kind of pigeonhole what our audiences and what our niches, and so to speak, a variety is our niche, right? But if you were to kind of segment it out,
yes,
we have public affairs and music.
Yes.
And actually,
could you tell me what public affairs are? Sorry for interrupting.
Right. So public affairs take the form of Davisville, which is a local show dealing specifically with Davis issues that is produced by Jim and Bill Buchanan, and he does a show based on his journalistic history. He's been a journalist for many decades, and so that's one kind of public affairs show. But then we also have the Davis Garden Show that's hosted by a nurseryman, very knowledgeable nurseryman here in Davis, Don Shore, and Lois Richter, a longtime producer, both for Davis TV, DC TV, and radio as well. So that's some of the public affairs, and we have a lot of syndicated shows also, such as Democracy Now! That we download from back east, and other weekly shows that are also public affairs related. And then the music shows, Jim and Doug both do musical shows, and we have many, many other different genres of music. And I'm very fortunate because I have the luxury of kind of just enjoying it all. I'm kind of the quintessential fan, so to speak. I don't have that kind of weekly, what shall I say, challenge of putting a show together that these guys do, which allows me the time to kind of do some of the stuff behind the scenes a little bit.
It sounds wonderful. The steering committee, how many members are you?
It fluctuates.
It fluctuates.
Because it is a volunteer organization, people's time changes when they're available.
Yes.
We have 6 right now that are fairly standard, and then about 3 more that may or may not be there.
And your mission is to
educate,
strategize the programming,
policy.
educate, and
policy decisions that need to be made,
direction,
things like that.
Yeah,
operations. We have a template that we kind of try to follow as much as possible. Obviously, budget has to be taken into consideration. Technical issues that arise, operations, the schedule. We have a schedule that comes out quarterly. And so we kind of have those hardwired in so that we're talking about them every month to make sure that we're not missing something. But I wanted to touch a little bit on the steering committee and volunteerism in general, because our programmers are more than just programmers. They each have their own passion that they bring to their program. So, for instance, Danny and Sarah, who do the patrol, awesome patrol,
yes,
they're very passionate about local music as well. So they are putting together programming. They're a big part of what makes music only make sense, which is a local nonprofit. And they actually, Danny, I should say, but Sarah also to a large extent. Danny is the coordinator of the annual Davis Music Fest. So we're kind of leveraging people's knowledge, not only around
passions, yes,
not only for doing their show, but also bringing in community members that they're interacting with.
Yes, and you wanted to mention something.
I would. Well, we're talking about this, I would say that anybody who's seeing this right now, the best thing that you could do, seriously, is get rid of the stereotype that you think radio is like, okay? Because radio, I can't say what I really think of commercial radio in the last 20 years on the air.
Yes.
But, okay, so fill in the blank yourself.
Yes.
But people, I think, have gotten very jaded about radio. And if a person was to take 5 or 10 minutes and go through the schedule and actually read some of the show descriptions of these shows that we have on during the week, I think anybody that lives in Davis that's curious at all is going to find something that they like. And the beauty of it is, even if you can't get our signal real strong, you can go to the websites, you can download the shows or stream them. So in this new era that we're in right now, yes, we have a broadcast radio frequency and station, but you can actually access us from New Mexico.
Yes.
You don't have to be here, but there's such a pool of interesting programs that this station puts on every week. I can't.
And I'm so glad, and I'll come back to you, but I'm so glad you're introducing this idea of the website and the streaming, and because I was going to ask exactly that question. Radio is evolving, and with the website coming into play, the radio is becoming not just the voice and the listening, but there's a multimedia element to it. And I actually would like to show you the web page for KDRT, but I also wanted to, since I've rudely interrupted you.
Not at all, not at all.
I do it all the time.
It all ties in. So what Jim was saying about Davis listeners being a pretty broad-minded and eclectic group, and everyone should be able to find something on the radio station that they'd find interesting. It also works in reverse. We're constantly on the lookout for new programmers who have something interesting that they can bring in here. And we've, we have a gentleman who does a show with us. He's a cultural entomologist. And he does a fascinating show, the Insect News
I've interviewed
News
him,
Network.
actually.
Emmett, okay.
Emmett.
So
Emmett Brady.
Emmett Brady. And so he has
he's fantastic.
He has this whole other avenue that he takes his program. So he does this radio program. He also operates a website. He also is on all the social media networks. And he ties it all together. So, when we were youngsters, radio was radio. It was, there were three main mediums: radio, print, and television. And now radio, the concepts that evolved with radio are now in all this other social media. But it still operates in very much the same way. We communicate. I say something, you're listening, you've got an idea, you shoot it back to me, and we bounce and we bounce and we bounce, and it's a beautiful thing, especially in a community like Davis.
It's just different layers and different added dimensions, and I think this is happening in print, for print journalism, for radio, for television. But let me show you I hope we'll get a visual of the first page of your website. Here it is. And as we all said
there's
a minute
Facebook
ago,
right there.
There's Facebook.
Like us on Facebook.
Yes, there's Facebook. And the interesting point is your listening button, Listen Now. And of course, that's a way of getting your programs from
out to the world.
Out to the world, because as I think Jim mentioned a little while ago, you can listen to your programming from anywhere in the world, as long as you have a strong enough broadband and internet connection. You can do that, and that's the new radio. That's the new radio.
And here's the new transistor radio.
And there's a new transistor radio.
The cell phone.
And let's take a look. Perhaps we can have a visual of the programming schedule, which I think is very interesting, because of course you can't read from here. But if you go to KDRT.org, you can, and that will display also, you can see the eclectic and the the richness of the programs.
Can I give you another example of
Absolutely.
how this all ties in
Yes.
with the new media?
Please do.
So one of our shows is a great program. It's called Sounds So Sweet.
Yes.
And it's hosted by a gentleman named Wayne Hagen. And Wayne Hagen is a jug band enthusiast. And he plays the jug. And his program is all about any and every kind of music that involves somebody, making that noise into a big 1-gallon jug. And so, you do the program, it gets out there,
yes,
and you never know who's listening. So once a year, when we ask people to give us a little bit of financial support, we get this check, or I think maybe even folding currency, from someone in Australia.
Tony.
It's
Tony
not in
Australia.
Bitcoins, though.
It's not in Bitcoin.
Not
no,
yet.
No.
Not yet.
But I don't believe he lived in Davis, did he?
No.
So
No.
how did he stumble across this little
He
radio
likes your
station
programs.
with the jug music program?
Yes.
Yeah, and so
Yes.
so it just takes the world and makes it all that much smaller.
It's a different world
Yeah.
from 5 years ago. And of course there are other elements. Of course, there are the visuals and the embedded videos that you can bring in from YouTube and reinforce, if you like, or enhance your voice programming. It's fantastic. So it has changed a great deal, and I'm very happy to see that you keep up with the pace very nicely.
It's not so much that we're keeping up with it; it's more like we're being dragged along by it.
Well, I'm glad to hear that.
Could
yes.
I have a little different
Perspective.
Not. I just want to make sure that we understand that we still want to be true to radio.
Yes.
For instance, we have old time radio.
I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah, because part of the fondness of radio in my
Yes.
mind is to be able to listen to radio while I'm, working in the garden, for instance, or
Yes.
cooking a nice meal. Sometimes it's
Good
nice
point.
not to have other multimedia things going on, and just being able to listen to the music or feel like you have a relationship with the personality that's putting on the show. It's just a very kind of a comforting feeling.
I'm so glad you brought this in because you brought this up because there's two aspects of radio that television does not have, and one is that you can multitask while you listen to your program. You don't have to have the visual all the time, and the other thing is the intimacy of the voice. That is, you can listen to a voice without being distracted by the pictures.
And there is a visual aspect. It's just all up here.
That's right. Very good.
And everyone's is a little bit different.
Yes.
It's theater of the mind, they call it.
Well, I wanted to ask you, since this is community radio, I wanted to ask you, each of you, basically, what are the opportunities that KDRT offers to interns, volunteers from the community?
Yeah.
Because that's very important. I'm going to start, this time I'm going to start from Doug. And what would you say it's the single most appealing or seductive opportunity that you have?
Seductive.
It's got to be the water cooler.
I would have to say that the single thing, the thing that's most attractive is that you can be the voice on the air. You can be the person behind the microphone. And you know how they say everyone has at least one good book in them?
Yes.
I feel that the same thing is true for radio. Everybody has the capacity to do a good radio show and tell their story or a story that they're familiar with, sharing the passion, whatever it is that they're passionate about. Insects, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And with a town like Davis and the university here, there's just so much knowledge.
There's so much knowledge.
And so I'd like to take the opportunity to just invite anybody who's watching that, if you've got something that you want to share,
yes,
good golly, please bring it to us. Come out and fill out a show proposal form.
Yes.
We'd really like to talk to you. We can fit you into our schedule, and we really want to hear what it's about. The more that we reflect the community around us, then we've done our job.
This is very good outreach because people don't necessarily know how to go about volunteering. So
on
that's
down.
great. There is something else that I was thinking of, and training. You know,
Yeah.
these days education is so expensive.
Yes.
It's an amazingly costly endeavor for so many young people. And so let's talk a little bit about the training opportunity that KDRT has for example, I'm thinking of things like producing a show, audio editing.
Right.
I know that you have Audacity, or you have
Yes.
Adobe Audition. You have the software, which is quite expensive, and people can
And
train.
the computers. Yeah.
And computers, and people can train. What else can they do?
Well, before
Yes.
our time slips away too much, I want to make sure that people know
Yes.
that in addition to coming down to the station, that they can also email info@kdrt.org, and we'll get back to them, because sometimes, it's just more convenient to do that.
Yes.
So going back to your question, DMA, Davis Media Access, I
Yes.
think embraces fully the idea of education and being a service to the community in terms of helping to empower people to be on the air in some capacity. I think you're right that education is very expensive, and KDRT and Davis Media Access in general is a very cost-effective use of a person's time. Not only learning how to produce a show, which Jim is really a fantastic person to help people learn how to do a show on the radio, but also behind the scenes, like myself, with the career challenges that we're being faced with. The young people especially, they
Yes.
may not be able to get a job, but to come down here and learn some computer skills that may be able to help them in their future endeavors, whether it's in media or not.
I think that's a very attractive aspect.
Yeah.
I'm afraid we're almost, we need to wrap up because we're almost out of time, but I do want Jim's reaction. What would be the single, a quick single most seductive appeal of KDRT for an intern?
Well, I think you have to be a little nuts to go into radio.
Well, we'll leave it there then. Thank you so much.
In all
Thank
the
you
best
very
ways.
So
Jim
if you're
Buchanan,
nuts, we're home.
Craig Blomberg, and Doug Kelly, all of them members of the steering committee of KDRT. Thank you so much for being here and for talking to us. And of course, thank you all of you for watching. I'm Lynn Weaver. You've been watching In the Studio. If you like, you can log on to dctv.davismedia.org and check out some of our other very interesting programs. Good night and see you next time.